G'day, I'm Luke Bateman, and this is In the Good Books. Now, as you know, I'm a big softie. I love love, I love romance, and if you didn't hear last week's episodes, get out of here. Go and check that out first, because this is part 2 of our love stories, which have absolutely wrecked me and destroyed me in the best way possible. This is part 2 of love stories to last the ages. Now, this next book is wonderful. This next book is a book that you probably know. It is a book about endurance and belonging. This book is Water for Elephants by Sara, Gruen. And this was just a great story. I know this story is about love, and I know that this is a romance novel, but this was just a compelling story. It was a magical, adventurous story about a young man, a veterinary student, or he's nearly completed his veterinary course at university. He runs away and he joins a traveling circus during the Great Depression in America and falls in love with one of these star performers. Like, what a story. First of all, I mean, just don't even worry about the romance or the love. This is a story about a young man running away to the circus. Like, that's all you need to know about this story. But this story was so wonderful. And I would say to you, I listened to this book on audio, and the narrator, it has a dual narrator because it's told from two perspectives. It reminded me of The Notebook in many ways. It's told from his aged perspective, his old man perspective, and obviously himself as a young man actually experiencing this story and going through this story. And they have dual narrators, and they have the old man, like the old man voice narrating. And I thought it was just so, it took me into the story so well. So I would actually suggest doing this book on audio because the narration was spectacular. But this was a story of a young man running away from himself, running away from his world into what he thought was probably an adventure, into the unknown. And if that is not a reflection of what love is, running away from what you know and running headlong into the unknown, I don't know what is. And it's such it's a story about a circus. The love in this story was a forbidden love, and it was with the wife of his boss, who he wasn't allowed to have, but they fell in love with each other. It was a forbidden love. It was a dangerous love. It was a scary love. It was a love that had you on the edge of your seat. And it was about a love for animals. And we fell in love with the animals of the sex. We fell in love with Rosie, our beautiful big elephant. So we had this love for the animals, and we had this romantic love for this forbidden woman, and the sort of the antagonist at the center of it all, the ringmaster, this big bad, and he was harming the animals, and he was a barrier between getting the love that we so desired. And it was just it showed so many examples of love, and it showed growth from a boy who had nothing to a man that had everything to lose. And I think, when love's at stake, like, that's when we have everything to lose. And as I said earlier, this was so poignant because the framing of this was told from the elderly Jacob perspective, our hero of the story, Jacob. It was told from him elderly self, reminding us that our stories are our most valuable possessions, because he was a man who was struggling with dementia. And it was just so powerful to show that, the love and the stories that we have, the stories who make us who we are, they are just so important. And then at the end of life, when we could be losing touch with reality and with memory, they are our most valuable possessions. Our next book. Wow. We've interviewed the author of this book. We read it a part of our book club. I know we've talked about this book before, but I cannot, it would be a crime for me to do an episode about love stories that have stayed with me if we don't talk about The Bronze Horseman by Paullina Simons. And truly, when we talk about love, let me tell you how much I love Paullina Simons. Oh my God, that woman is just a force of nature. What a wonder, what a marvelous person to have in the world, and what a person I'm so deeply I'm so deeply in love with. So don't forget about the Bronze Horseman. Well, I love Paullina Simons, but the book, Love in Scarcity, Love in War, and she said it herself, love in loveless places. The woman said herself, this is the perfect book for that. And it is such a wonderful, this is my Mount Everest of love stories, set in the middle of the siege of Leningrad during World War II. Tatiana, our heroine, falls for our mysterious Alexander, the hero of the story, and they both struggle to survive and to, I suppose, they struggle to survive physically and they struggle to survive emotionally during the starvation of this war and the starvation of their own love. And how do you maintain a love when the world is starving around you? And how do you maintain a love when the love of your life is with your sister? Oh, it was just, I'm going to gush about this book again, but this is just the love story of all love stories. And it was just the most tender, beautiful, invigorating love. I can't begin to explain to you what this book made me feel, what this love made me feel. And as I've said, the love in this, the intimate love, the sexual love in this book was just the most gripping sexual scenes that I've ever read in my life. I connected so deeply with them. That's the kind of sex that I want to have. That's the kind of connection with my partner that I want to have. That's kind of intimacy that I want to have. And you need to read this book. You need to let this book just envelop you and wend its way into you and dig its fingernails into you and never let go, because it is just the love that tops all loves for the next love story. This is not a love story that I would say blew me away. This was not a love story that I fell in love with. This was something that I probably even had a few criticisms around. However, the reason that I must include this love story in this episode is because I have had so many people say to me that this was the book, this was the story that got them to fall in love with reading, that got them to reinvigorated their love of reading, their love of books, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now, while I think that the love in this is not perfect, well, I think the narrative of this book is not perfect. What is perfect about this book and what is perfect about this love story is, as I said, this is a love story that made people fall in love with reading. And it is I would say it's very similar to, it's Beauty and the Beast-esque. It's a resisted love. It's a love that they don't want to fall into. It's enemies to lovers. It's set in a fantasy world, which was actually quite a beautiful fantasy world. And while, you know, the love story was imperfect, the world that it was set in has taken so many of you and so many people I've talked to into a magical place that's in, you know, drew them out of the real world into the book and into the story. And that's why I love this book. That's why I love this story. And that's why I'm recommending this story, because while it may not have been a love story that I deeply connected with, it is a love story that so many of you have deeply connected with. And if it's a book that made many people fall in love with reading, I'm sure that it can do it for many people who aren't in love with reading yet. So please, if this is something you think will make you fall in love with reading, then this is the love story for you. And that is why I love it. The final book in this romance series is a timeless classic. This is a book that I'm never going to forget. This is a love that I'm never going to forget. The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. Oh my God. When I talk about epic love stories, this is it. And this is an epic life story. This book is about patience. And this is a book about being a patient reader. It's about being patient for the things we want. This book was like you are on a train, and no matter, this train was just launching you to the end of the book, and you could see what was coming, and you were just so scared of what was coming, but you just could not get off this train. The love in this book was so disjointed, and we got the love story out of order, and it jumped around. And I need, if you don't know anything about this book, this is the story of a man who has a rare genetic disorder that causes him to involuntarily travel through time, and he's jumping through time all over the place, and he meets the love of his life as a young girl, and then she has to wait. She has to be patient for this love. She has this fated love coming to her that we all have to wait for. As the reader, we have to wait for him. We want it. She wants it. And she has to wait for Henry to appear in her life. So we know about this love. We know this love exists. We see this love, and yet it's actually not a real love yet. And this story of this broken love was imperfect, and it showed the messiness of life. It showed the pain of love. It showed all aspects of love. This book made me feel every single emotion on the spectrum we are talking. I felt joy, I felt happiness, I felt hope, I felt longing, I felt missing, I felt absence, I felt pain. Like, it was just love in all its forms, love in all its spectrums, life in all of its spectrums, and the messiness of life, the hardship of life, the painship of life. In the painship of pregnancy. They wanted to have a child, and they were struggling to have a child because of this genetic disorder. And there's just something in this book for everyone. There is something in this book that you will find that will be you, that will resonate with you, that will be something you can connect with. It's something that reflects to you. And I just thought that it was perfect. And it came with this sledgehammer at the end. And this book was the book that says, how do I destroy you? How do I use this love? How do I use this narrative to tear you into a million tiny pieces, while also simultaneously using this love and this story to piece you back together better than you were? And it is just a love story that is different to the Bronze Horseman, but in many, many ways rivals it in terms of its epicness and how profound it was to me. Off the back of such an amazing story, I feel like I need to make this point even more pertinent. If there's one thing these stories have taught me, it's that time is the only thing that we can't buy more of. We spend so much time waiting for the right moment to be vulnerable, or the right time to say big things, or the right time to even say the little things that you think don't matter but mean the world to somebody else. But the time traveler's wife shows us that later is never guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. So here's my challenge for you today. Don't just finish this podcast and go back to scrolling or go back to doing whatever you were doing. Pick up your phone, or better yet, walk into the next room and tell the people that you love them. Tell you what you love about them. Tell them what they mean to you. Text that person, be it friend, be it your partner, be it your parents, be it your children. Text them. Tell them that you love them. Do it clearly. Do it now, because the best love stories aren't just the ones we read. They're the ones that we live in our lives, that we live out loud, the ones that we live every single day. They are the most important love stories. I love you all. I really mean that. I love you all, because you are book lovers, book readers, lovers of stories like me, lovers of romance, lovers of love. I love you all. I also love when I get to hear from all of you. So keep sending me your voice memos by emailing them to goodbooks@9.com.au. Let me know what you want to hear more of, or maybe the love stories that you can't put down, or the love that exists within your own life. I want to hear about love. Tell me about love. Don't even send me a audio about books. Just send me an audio about love. I love it. For any more details on this, you can check out the podcast notes below. Before we go, a quick reminder that our In the Good Books Club read, before we discuss all of its magical details in our episode on March 11th, is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. So I hope you're reading that right now. If you haven't, get into it. We're going to be discussing it on March 11th. Thank you for joining me on this episode of In the Good Books. I love the fact that I'm able to sit here and talk words and magic with all of you. It means the world to me. If you haven't already, please subscribe to In the Good Books by hitting the follow button in your podcast app. I look forward to the next chapter.